Phonological awareness. English uses an alphabetic writing system, meaning that each letter is, in principle, meant to represent a sound in speech. In practice, we know that it isn't that simple. Sometimes more than one letter is used for a single sound. Sometimes a single letter can stand for more than one sound, and sometimes there are letters which don't seem to stand for a sound at all. But overall, learning to read and write means understanding that letters in English spelling stand for sounds in English speech, and learning which letters are associated with which sounds. However, before you can do this, you need to develop an even more basic skill. You need to understand that spoken words can be broken down into individual speech sounds. For example, cat isn't just an individual chunk of sound. It's made up of the consonant k, the vowel a, and the consonant t. Only when you understand this will you be able to match up the letters of English with the individual sounds. The ability to recognize that words are made up of smaller sound units is called phonological awareness. Phonological awareness is part of spoken language, not written language. But because of the relationship between speech and writing, phonological awareness is an essential prerequisite to learning to read and write. Phonological awareness in fact involves a set of skills at different levels. Syllable awareness is the understanding that words can be broken down into syllables. For example, the word phonological is made up of 5 syllables: pho, no, lo, je, kul. Onset rhyme awareness means understanding that syllables in turn are made up of 2 parts: an onset, which is one or more consonants at the start of a syllable, and a rhyme, which is the rest of the syllable. In the syllable sat, the onset is s and the rhyme is at. In the syllable splat, the onset is spl and the rhyme is at. The syllable at doesn't have an onset, only a rhyme. Syllables or words rhyme when they have the same rhyme but different onsets, as in bat, cat, hat, flat, mat, sat. Children are able to recognize that words rhyme earlier than they can produce rhyming words. If you read a rhyming book to a 4 or 5-year-old, they'll be able to realize you've said the wrong word if you replace a non-rhyming word where a rhyming word should be. But some might not yet be able to produce the rhyming word for you. Phoneme awareness means understanding that words are made up of individual sounds. These sounds can be manipulated in various ways to change a word. For example, by replacing one sound with another, we might get a different word. Bat can become cat. If we add a sound to a word, we might get a new word. So for example, from pot, we add an S and we get spot. If we remove a sound from a word, we might also get a new word. So from slip, if we take away the s, we get lip. All of these are skills which allow you to break down words into smaller units of sound. Here's a personal example to demonstrate the development of phonological awareness. When my youngest daughter was 3, she really wanted to be tested on spelling when her 7-year-old sister was practicing hers. She had no phonological awareness at all at this point, and we would be a bit mean and give her quite long words to spell. If we said, "How do you spell elephant?" she would say, very fast, "elephant." At age 3, she had no concept at all that a word could be broken up into smaller sound units. To her, the string of sounds elephant equaled the meaning elephant, and nothing more. I would congratulate her for doing a good job, and she would be very pleased, not even realizing how her version of spelling differed from her 7-year-old sister's version. A year later, at age 4, if you asked Ella to spell elephant, she would say le-phant. Syllable awareness had kicked in first, but at that stage she couldn't break up the syllables into their individual sounds. Now we're another year on, and Ella has been, at the time of my recording, she's been in kindergarten for a month. Let's see how she goes spelling elephant now.
Ella, how do you spell elephant? E-O. E-O-E-E-T. Can you do the actions? The Jolly Phonics actions? E-O-E.
Ella has now developed phoneme awareness, and this is a sign that she is ready to learn how to read. If Ella was still coming to terms with phonological awareness at the level of phoneme awareness, then she'd be struggling to read every word at this point. But she's not, as we'll see in a minute. Early literacy training typically involves developing phonological awareness skills as a basis for teaching reading and spelling. You can see here the phonological awareness skills that are introduced through the New South Wales K-10 English syllabus. At early stage 1, there is an emphasis on oral discrimination of syllables, recognizing and producing rhymes, detecting initial and final sounds in words, and blending sounds to make a word. Becoming a fluent reader means moving from knowing the individual letters and their sounds to being able to quickly and accurately decode long passages of text. There has been a lot of discussion about what is the best way to achieve this, and out of this discussion has come two main approaches to the teaching of reading. Phonics is a method which systematically teaches children the correspondences between letters and sounds. We've seen that a first step towards learning to read is to understand that the symbols we use in writing, the letters of the alphabet, are representations of speech sounds. Some beginner readers grasp this principle on their own, but most have to be taught it. This is the basis for the phonics approach, guiding learner readers to the understanding that there is a systematic correspondence between letters and sounds. When they've been taught which sound each letter or combination of letters stand for, they should then be able to read unfamiliar words by sounding them out. In a phonics program, children are not introduced to the letters and sounds in alphabetical order. Rather, they are introduced to sound-letter pairs in a systematic way. They are first introduced to sounds which occur most commonly with a regular sound-letter correspondence, with a single letter representing a sound. They are introduced to digraphs, two letters representing one sound, a bit later. They can thus start reading a large number of words very quickly. Different phonics programs have different methods for getting children to associate the sound with the letter. At Ella's school, in kindergarten, they're using the Jolly Phonics program, which is quite popular in schools in New South Wales. With Jolly Phonics, there is an action associated with each letter sound combination, so the association with the meaningful action helps the children remember the sound and the shape of the letter. In Jolly Phonics, these are the first 6 sounds that are introduced. You can see that introducing them in that order, with common single letter sounds first, means that a child can actually read a large number of words quite quickly. Ella is now in her 5th week of kindergarten, and she's been taught 22 letters and sounds, so she can read and spell out a lot of words. Here are a few examples of her demonstrating some of the actions and some reading of some words.
Ella, can you spell with the Jolly Phonics? Can you spell for me pat? Per act. With the Jolly Phonics? The actions? Per act. Now rat. Act.
What about, what's this one? This one.
Are
you blowing out the candle? Can you read this for me? And do the actions?
D. N.
per, t. Okay, so now we're going to go on to her. So let's do
The whole language approach emphasizes the meaning of texts more than the sounds of individual letters. Children are taught to recognize words as wholes, and it is only later that they learn to break them down into individual sounds and letters. When a child comes across an unfamiliar word, they are meant to be able to predict what the word will be from the context it occurs in, what the text is about, and what the preceding words have been. In practice, the predictability of content words in context is generally quite low, so it's actually quite hard even for good readers to guess what a word will be from the context. It seems to be mainly beginning readers or poor readers who rely on context to try to guess what a word is. More fluent readers actually rely less on context. If it's a matter of choosing one or the other, then phonics seems to be clearly the more effective of the two approaches. It is also the one that is emphasised in Australian education currently. This doesn't mean that being taught phonics is the only thing a child needs in order to be able to read well. There are a few studies which suggest that children who are taught with a mixture of methodologies do better than those who are only taught using one or the other. Another factor which seems to be important for children to learn to read well is being read to. There is some research that suggests that having parents read aloud to children, along with informal discussion of what they're reading, may be the single most important factor that promotes reading ability. It seems that the reason for this is that having someone read aloud to them increases children's vocabulary knowledge. This is important because you can only read and understand a word if you actually know what the word means. Being able to sound out a word will only get you so far if you don't understand what the string of sounds is supposed to mean. To summarise, learning to read first of all presupposes phonological awareness. This is the understanding that spoken words can be broken down into smaller units of sound, and it is important because learning to read means being able to match up those units of sound with letters. The next stage is understanding that letters are representations of speech sounds. The phonics approach to reading teaches this explicitly and emphasises the ability to match up letters and sounds and to sound words out if they're unfamiliar. This seems to be a more effective approach than the whole language approach, which places emphasis on the meaning of texts and relies on context in identifying unfamiliar words. But a whole range of skills and abilities go into becoming a good reader.